I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, Presidency of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to introduce our next Houston legend, none other than Nomi Hussein. He's a prominent attorney in our city and is very civically minded. Happy to have him joining us. You're going to learn a lot more about him and the reasons why we've asked him to serve as a Houston legend on this program. Thanks for joining us, Nomi.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you to the Chamber for giving me such a prestigious honor.
Well, listen, we are out there watching. We see you so involved, not only here locally, but in Washington, D.C., and so engaged. You and I are fortunate to have been appointed to the Houston-Harris County Sports Authority, where great things are happening,
Absolutely.
As everyone knows. And it's just been a pleasure. I think we met in a leadership program a long, long time ago.
We don't want to talk about that.
We don't, but we've been fast friends ever since, Nomi. And what a journey you have had from the University of Texas, going to law school, growing up in a smaller town, not Houston, but you're running in very big circles, Nomi, and it's certainly very impressive, and it's very strategic. It's a lot of hard work. I know you travel internationally to represent your clients. How do you do all of this?
Well, I don't sleep much, and when I do, it's usually on planes. But credit goes to the leaders who came before me, because they blazed a trail that I could follow in their footsteps. And I'm trying to do the same for the leaders that are in our communities that are behind me.
Yes, and speaking of leaders, you currently were asked to chair a new council with Mayor Turner before his departure. Tell me about that.
So the mayor and his leadership has created a new advisory board, which is the advisory board relating to the Asian American Pacific Islanders community here in Houston. This community has grown in the last 50 years exponentially. It currently represents about 1.2 million people here in the greater Houston area. So the mayor wanted to involve the community a little bit more with the city, and so he created a board of leaders from the community, and he asked me to serve as chairman, which I'm honored to do. And the purpose of the board is basically threefold. First is to increase diversity and involvement of our community in the city boards and commissions. You and I are fortunate to serve on the Sports Authority, and we've also served on various other boards, but we feel like the minority community is a little bit underrepresented across the board in the various commissions.
Yes.
The second thing is to increase law enforcement awareness and interaction with our community and law enforcement. A lot of times our communities are unfairly targeted with hate crimes, so we're creating a bridge between our community and law enforcement. And lastly comes down to business, which I'm sure being president of this chamber you'll appreciate, is to show our members and educate our members of how to get involved with the city, how to bid for contracts, and get more interaction between our community and the city as far as business relationships.
And it is very important, and we have to begin helping people understand how to help themselves, knowing that it's out there, how to get them registered, certified, all of those great things. The city is very diversified, and we do have leaders here that understand that the economic well-being of Houston is really in the hands of so many minority groups, such as the Asian Pacificers and others, Hispanics included. And so it's good to see that. And you have been able to truly lead in a lot of ways. Your international reputation, your national reputation in Washington, D.C., and bridging that community with the local impact. Why is that so important to you? You could just be focused on your law business, but why is that such a focus for you?
Well, there's a saying that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I believe that, being at the table is very important for all communities. And I have an opportunity to serve at that table at a national level, and I'm happy to do so. Making money is one thing, and it's great, don't get me wrong. But serving the community also has its own rewards, and it's very special to me. So that's why I go out of my way to try to do whatever I can to serve the community.
And you've done one thing that's, I think, really exciting, which is the Washington Fellows. Tell us about that.
So in 1964, President Johnson created a program called the White House Fellowship. And the White House Fellowship was a program where the president wanted to select up-and-coming leaders from around the country to serve in the White House under his administration. So obviously the president is very busy and doesn't have time to interview everybody that wants to be a White House Fellow. So he appoints a commission of about 20 citizens across the country to serve as White House Fellowship commissioners. When President Biden was sworn in, one of the first commissions he filled was this commission, and he asked me to serve, and I was honored to do so. So we meet about twice a year. We interview in Washington, D.C., the 50 finalists from around the country, and then we narrow that down to between 10 and 15 final recommendation candidates that we asked the president to appoint as his White House fellows. So it's been a very eye-opening experience. It's been very educational for me because there's lots of programs around the country that I didn't know about that these White House fellows belong to. And the president, to his credit, has gone out of his way to make the commission diverse, and therefore now the White House fellows are more diverse.
Well, that's what it's about. It's making sure that we are included and that our children have those opportunities. I want to talk to you a little bit about you coming to Houston. You were born and raised in a small town and ended up going to UT, but walk us through that journey a little bit.
Sure. My parents migrated to America in 1974 when I was 3 years old. My father had $100 in his wallet when he landed in New York City. So I'm the son of immigrants, and we started with nothing. In 1977, because of the oil boom, everybody was moving to Houston and Texas, so my parents got all their stuff in a car, put their 2 young kids in a car, and we drove down from New York to Houston. And very soon after moving to Houston, my father purchased some property in a small town called Huffman, Texas. Huffman is a rural community, mainly farming and ranching, and that's where I went to middle school, elementary, middle school, high school, and graduated from there. But growing up in Huffman, it was very, very good education for me because I got to meet all types of people. And that experience in growing up in a small community here in Texas really helped me become, I think, an effective trial lawyer because it really helps me connect with the jurors, not only when they're on the jury, but when we're picking the jurors during voir dire. It really gives me a lot of insight, and I'm very grateful for that experience that my parents gave me. I went on to UT, then to law school here in Houston, and then started my own firm back in 2001.
And now your firm is recognized as a very, very influential firm in many areas. Specifically, your practice is personal injury?
Yes, I've practiced personal injury, but I focus on international aviation accidents. So I'm board certified in personal injury. I'm board certified in civil trial. I'm also licensed as a solicitor in England and Wales, which very few U.S. qualified lawyers actually have their license in England and Wales. I'm one of those lawyers that have licenses on both sides of the pond. So, unfortunately, sometimes planes do have accidents, and when planes have accidents, I'm one of the lawyers that help represents the families to get compensation from the airlines and the manufacturers of the planes when something like this happens. Most recently, the case that we've been working on is a Boeing 737 MAX litigation, which was a brand new plane that Boeing introduced and sold to the airlines, but it had a defective MCAS system. I'm not going to get into the technology part of it, but the plane was malfunctioning, and unfortunately there were 2 horrific crashes, one in Indonesia and one in Ethiopia, in which everybody lost their lives. And the plane ended up being grounded for about 20 months. So we're working on those cases and trying to help the families around the world get justice.
Well, we're proud that you are in that space, if you will. I know that among Hispanics there are many misperceptions. So I'm sure in your community as well. I don't want to talk about the misperceptions, but talk to us about today. What are things that you want people who are watching this program to know about your community? So
our community is a very educated, well-established, law-abiding community. The stereotypes that you see on TV and sometimes in movies about our community are absolutely false. And most of the people who fall victim to those stereotypes are people that do not know our community. So I would encourage people who do not have friends from my community to reach out and meet us because, we would love to meet you. And the more you get to know us, the stronger we all become as a community.
Yes. And lastly, tell us what you would like your legacy to be.
So my grandparents, who also were very involved in raising me, always told me that to those to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've been blessed through my parents and my education and my success to reach a certain level in this society. And I want to continue to chart that path so that people coming behind me, as I was following leaders in front of me, continue to move forward and excel and reach even higher levels of success than I've been able to attain. So I want that to be my legacy. Well, and you certainly every day make a point to not only do well, but do good. And for that, Nomi, and so much more, we're so happy to recognize you as a Houston legend. And also on the personal level, you have been a great friend, and I've enjoyed seeing our children grow up to go on to do incredible things. And so thank you for that and so much more. Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Lauren. Thank you again for this honor. Absolutely. So we thank you for joining us as we recognize our Houston legend, Nomi Hussein, for all of the great work that he has done in this city and continues to do throughout the country. And on behalf of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, join us at our upcoming events, visit our website,
and we thank you for all that you do to make Houston a great city. Thank you.
Gosh, what a great organization, what great leadership from Dr. Murillo. You always want to go where the future is, and this is where the future is. And when you look at this people, the quality of the production, everything about this organization and the leadership, this is what you want to be a part of.
The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is the leading regional advocate for the economic and civic interests of the Hispanic business community. Our 3 legislative priorities include DACA, NAFTA, and census. Collectively, the economic impact of these 3 legislative priorities is $24.8 billion in the greater Houston region. The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce announced a wide-ranging partnership with the City of Houston ahead of the pivotal 2020 U.S. Census to increase engagement and broaden awareness. We have utilized our media platform, which includes CBS, Intercom, Univision, KHOU 11, and the KHOU to disseminate facts and figures. Additionally, the national media has taken notice of our chamber and has featured us on Bloomberg, CNN, The Washington Post, NPR, Money Week, to name a few, in an effort to educate and emphasize our role as the leader of Houston's new majority. We prepared op-eds, wrote white papers, held press conferences, presented on local and national panels.
NAFTA, as you know, your chamber once again has taken the lead. The numbers don't lie.
This is about jobs, economic impact. We know that a trade between the U.S. and Mexico is over $180 billion as it relates to Texas.
We celebrate the fact that the United States Supreme Court has thrown out that census question that was, are you a U.S. citizen?
It was also a banner year for the Chamber's annual initiatives, groundbreaking and data-focused Hispanic Impact Summits, the Women's Leadership Conference and Business Expo, Health, Innovation, and Technology Summit, our annual Luncheon and Business Expo, the largest in Houston, as well as our elected officials reception, annual awards gala. We graduated emerging leaders. The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce remains mission-focused.
And as go Hispanics, so goes Houston.
The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is the leading regional advocate for the economic and civic interest of the Hispanic business community, the leader of Houston's new majority.
The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is the leading advocate for the Hispanic business community. In Houston, we represent over $54 billion per year in consumer spending. Our thanks to our board and staff for making sure we elevate business and advocate for a stronger economy.
I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, President of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So happy to be here at the KHOU 11 studios with none other than Laura Ward. You've seen her out in the community doing phenomenal things with the Houston's Children's Charities. Today, we're recognizing her as our Houston legend for the work she does in the community and so much more. Laura, thank you.
Well, thank you for the recognition. I've never been called a legend.
Well, you know what? Today is the day, and
Well,
it's been
very
long
kind of
overdue.
you. Very kind
You've
of
done
you.
some extraordinary work, but I think what had brought, so much joy to these families, and we see you at the galas, and we see you all dolled up and just always stunning and beautiful. But to see you with the families, awarding the vans, and seeing the smiles on those faces and the changes that will happen as a result of the foundation was touching. Thank you for inviting me to experience that and see that. And it takes a lot of people, but it takes a great leader. Why has this been your passion?
Well, I grew up one of 9 children, the second of 9 children in Louisiana. And we always had everything we needed. We didn't have everything we wanted because Mom and Dad were certainly focused on not giving us everything we wanted. But we lived in a rural area where most of the people around us, very many of them, did not have what they needed. And I learned at a young age in Catholic school that you give back. And then I would go home and I learned it at home because my mother and father were constantly doing little random acts of kindness on a daily basis. The stories are so many and the memories are so many. So I learned very young that that was a life's goal of our family was to always share, whether we had a little or a lot. You just shared it. You gave some of it back.
Yes.
It was rather a service before self attitude in our house. And it went with me to college, and it went with me in my younger years when I was raising my children, and it stayed with me. It's
Yes.
always stayed with me that you have to do that.
Yes. And your years at LSU, would you ever think that you would be running a foundation helping families? I mean, what did you think you were going to do when you were at LSU?
Well, when we were at LSU, I was in a sorority.
Okay.
And every Sunday we went to the Baton Rouge School for the Blind. And we had a play afternoon with the children. And it
Yes.
was, I looked forward to it all week. I loved Sunday afternoons. And then one Sunday afternoon, you could choose not to go. And I rarely chose that because I just looked forward to it so much.
Yeah.
So being the second of 9 children, you almost feel like you're running a charity at the house because you're doing for the younger ones every day, all day. So I never questioned the fact that this would be my life. Didn't realize it would turn into a career, Laura. And I've never been educated in it or schooled in it. I have no formal training in philanthropy or fundraising or any of it. I learned by doing. It was on the job training for me.
Yes.
And my very first fundraiser was 33 years ago in the gymnasium of my children's private school, and we had a $5 a plate spaghetti dinner.
There you go.
And I realized then I could ask people for money and they would give it to me if it was for a good cause.
Well, and
That's how it began.
And look at you now, having raised over $100 million. No small feat.
Well, it's daunting to hear it, but yeah, I have, and I'm very grateful. But you said something in the beginning. That money only came because of the village that was with me, behind me, and supported me. I've never raised a dollar alone. It always takes a village.
Yes.
And I'm hoping our young children realize that. That life is fleeting, but passion is not. Motivation can be fleeting, but inspiration is what stays. And if you're inspired by somebody or inspired by something, then that can't become a career. It can be your passion that becomes a career. I worry that our leaders today, my age, when we're gone, I worry that the level of philanthropy in Houston can sustain itself because it's needed.
Yes.
23% of our children, Laura, live at the poverty level in Houston, Harris County rather. That's daunting, 23%. And 20% of those children go to bed hungry every night. They're food insecure. They get 1 meal a day. It's normally at school. So I throw those figures out and I speak it all the time when I'm speaking to younger people or people across the board in Houston that we need to mitigate the suffering and the difficulty that parents of these children wake up to every morning. It's our role to help those parents. They're the heroes.
Yes. They're
the heroes. They are the
Yes.
heroes, but we have to help them. We have to provide
Absolutely.
them with support and resource.
And speaking of support and resources, every year that I go to your gala, it seems like we're sardine in there ever more so, and people want to help. And it's everything from your board of directors to, I saw you guys were prepping all of the backpacks for back to school. And the smiles and the hard work that your team, you can see the smiles on their faces, but you also see the smiles on these families' faces. I mean, have there been any in particular that have just stayed with you? I mean, you've got so many memories.
Well, the children, tomorrow we'll give away 4,500 backpacks, thanks to Rod Ryan, who raises all the money and has done this for us now for 15 years. That's what I'm talking about when I say inspiration is lasting. A 15-year commitment to any cause is truly inspiring.
Yes.
And the stories that stand out to me are the families that we will provide Christmas to the same family we give a backpack to the same family we give a van to. We embrace our families and we don't lose sight of our families. We don't forget them. We gave out 35 vans last year, and those 35 families became a part of our family.
Yes.
We check on them at Christmas. We check on them at Easter. We check on them for back to school. We don't just give the van and they drive away. They become part of the Houston Children's
Yes.
Charity family. And that's how our family has grown. You mentioned our gala, and our very lofty goal this year is that we will raise $4 million at our gala. And I don't know for certain, I'm looking for the numbers, but I don't think there's a local charity in Houston that is not affiliated with the arts, just a local charity that has ever raised $4 million in a single night. But we're going to do it, because we're not going to stop till we do it. Once I announce a goal and set a goal,
It's done.
don't stop short.
It is done. Well, I know your team is going to, with their tennis shoes
we
and
have
whatever needs to happen on those phones, your board and others are going to rally to make that announcement.
They always
to
do.
say it is done. And I look forward to seeing that big smile on your face when
Thank
you
you,
get
Laura.
it done.
Thank you.
And it's just been beautiful just watch all of the things that you've been affiliated with. And of course, your marriage, of all same age, to our beloved Dave Ward, and the recent sign that is dedicated, the
Yes.
street sign. That's been a journey for you as well.
Dave and I have been together 24 years now, and it's complex because Dave's life is huge. It's large, and my life wasn't as large when I married him, and mine, this charity has just been consuming.
Yes.
And the need has risen exponentially year by year. Laura, when we first started a bed program, about 100,000 children a night were going to sleep on the floor. Today, it's 350,000 children every night in Houston, Texas, sleep on the floor. And that for me is so, I hate to say unacceptable, it seems trite. It's shocking. It's shocking that we sleep in our Tempur-Pedic beds and our wonderful beds, and I have the most wonderful mattress sponsor, Texas Mattress
Yes.
Makers, and makes the best mattresses in the world. And we give away 150 beds a month, and there's still 300,000 children a night sleeping on the floor. So yeah, it's my marriage to Dave has been complex because we both have such large lives, and sometimes just making time for it all is really difficult. Dave has been so supportive of Houston Children's Charity, and he remains on our advisory board.
Wow. We're so thankful that he's been such a big part of this city. And as you said, both of you with very large lives that have been so impactful for so many people. And I'm sure folks that you've not even met, that the charity has been absolutely a lifesaver, a game changer for. When you think of younger people, you mentioned it earlier, right? You're concerned about the next generation. We're seeing people, the priority is working from home, being remote, and perhaps not as engaged. What can we do as people who are already out there doing our part to pass on some of this knowledge to this younger generation?
Well, you hit a nail on the head that's sensitive to me. I understood during COVID that people had to work remotely, but it definitely has changed the fundraising landscape. It's changed the philanthropic landscape of Houston. If you're working remotely and you're not home, and you're at home, and you can't touch it, see it, and feel it, you won't remember it. And as I talk about, motivation is temporary, inspiration is consistently lasting. It's hard to get inspired just sitting at home in front of your computer working remotely. It is not difficult to be inspired when you do what you did and came to one of our van distributions and you see the families and you speak to them, but you wouldn't have been so touched that day if you watched it on television from your home. So I know the value of working remotely. I know the economics of it for corporations. I know all of it. But it has definitely changed the landscape for those people working remotely, embracing causes, because you have to be up close and personal to really be inspired by something. That's my feeling.
Yes.
I'm sure there are people watching that'll say, Laura, you're just wrong. But I've seen it. I'm dealing with it.
Well, and especially in the work that you do.
Right.
It is so very important to see it, to feel it, to understand all of the idiosyncrasies that are not involved in an email or behind a computer screen. So we see that.
Totally.
As we wrap up, I ask the last question to all of our Houston legends. And that question is, what would you like for your legacy to be?
Well, I heard you ask that question a few moments ago, so I thought, she's going to ask that question. I've not thought about it. I believe that you live your life and your life creates a legacy. I've never thought about leaving a legacy, but I go back to something that I read years ago that Mother Teresa said that one of my favorites. She said, not all of us can do great things, but each and every one of us can do small things with great love. And I absolutely love that. I've told it to my children. I tell it to everybody. It's one of my favorite quotes from Mother Teresa, who is one of my most inspirational people in my life. So I think if my children, my grandchildren, my friends, my family can look at the way I've lived life and take one small part of it and say, I'd like to do that, then that's my legacy.
Well, you've done it already.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks for all you do. Thank you for being a great, great inspiration to so many people in this great city that we have, which is Houston, Texas. And I can't wait to hear the final, we did it, of $4 million in the fall.
It'll be $4 million.
It will be, and maybe more. Thanks for joining us. As always, we're happy to bring you some very extraordinary people who've lived phenomenal lives and given back to this great city. And for this and more, we recognize Laura Ward as our Houston legend. Thanks for joining us.
Gosh, what a great organization. What great leadership from Dr. Murillo. You always want to go where the future is, and this is where the future is. And when you look at this people, the quality of the production, everything about this organization and the leadership, this is what you want to be a part of.
The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is the leading regional advocate for the economic and civic interests of the Hispanic business community. Our 3 legislative priorities include DACA, NAFTA, and census. Collectively, the economic impact of these 3 legislative priorities is $24.8 billion in the greater Houston region. The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce announced a wide-ranging partnership with the city of Houston ahead of the pivotal 2020 U.S. Census to increase engagement and broaden awareness. We have utilized our media platform, which includes CBS, Intercom, Univision, KHOU 11, and the KHOU to disseminate facts and figures. Additionally, the national media has taken notice of our chamber and has featured us on Bloomberg, CNN, The Washington Post, NPR, Money Week, to name a few, in an effort to educate and emphasize our role as the leader of Houston's new majority. We prepared op-eds, wrote white papers, held press conferences, presented on local and national panels.
NAFTA, as you know, your chamber once again has taken the lead. The numbers don't lie.
This is about jobs, economic impact. We know that a trade between the U.S. and Mexico is over $180 billion as it relates to Texas.
We celebrate the fact that the United States Supreme Court has thrown out that census question that was, are you a U.S. citizen?
It was also a banner year for the Chamber's annual initiatives, groundbreaking and data-focused Hispanic Impact Summits, the Women's Leadership Conference and Business Expo, Health, Innovation, and Technology Summit, our annual Luncheon and Business Expo, the largest in Houston, as well as our elected officials reception, annual awards gala. We graduated emerging leaders. The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce remains mission-focused.
And as go Hispanics, so goes Houston.
The Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is the leading regional advocate for the economic and civic interests of the Hispanic business community, the leader of Houston's new majority.